Hi guys, how you doing? I'm Prawn and welcome to the channel. So right now we're just off out for a little drive. We're going to go for a bit of a spin, film a little bit of stuff, see if I can explain a bit about me and the car and why I'm doing the channel, and we'll take it from there. So, here we are in the New Forest. This is me. This is the A3. I am not good with the camera. This is me. And this is the A3. Still not good with the camera. So, I bought the A3 when I was 19. It was my daily driver for about 4 years. It went from a standard 150 brake up pretty quickly to 190 and then about 230. And that's how it stayed for 4 years. Until it reached about 200,000 miles and I decided that was too many. So parked it up and left it. So around 2009 I started driving out to the Nürburgring. I used to drive my Mini out there and my dad used to drive the A3 as a support car. He used to claim it was a support car, probably more because the thought of 5 hours in the Mini did not appeal. So we were out there, I think it was 2010, and we just fit the new Megajolt ECU to the Mini. And we were having some major issues with misfires at high revs. So we were out there for a week, not wanting to waste the entire week. We thought we'd jump in the A3 and do some laps. And I think it took about 3 laps before we realised this was a lot better than the Mini around a big track like that. So in the campsite, over a couple of German beers, a bit of a plan was formed. We had the A3 parked up on the drive. It was about 230 brake at the time and we hadn't done anything in 9 months. Cheap set of wheels, cheap set of seats, and we'd have ourselves a track car. That was 2011, and 8 years later this is where we've ended up. So it was only ever meant to be a bit of cheap fun, but after a couple of trips to the ring we soon started finding out areas that were weaknesses. Brakes, tyres, engine didn't seem that powerful. I think it was only making about 210 brake after about 50,000 miles of extreme abuse. So we started seeing things pop up. We saw a gearbox with a limited slip diff. We went for that. That transformed the car. We went and did a track day at Castle Combe. We found the front end just didn't seem to have the grip we wanted. So full Leon Cooper R running gear went on. And it went on and on like that. And over the course of a couple of years, we got better seats, we got the roll cage, we went to Brembo 4-pots on it. We eventually went 6-speed after going through 7 5-speed gearboxes. Never again. So the car ended up in 2012 running a KO4064 from a 2-litre TFSI. And that was making around 370 brake, and that's how the car stayed for about the next 4 years. It was ultra reliable. We took it all over the place. We drove it to Spa in Belgium. We did track days all over the country and probably about 20,000 road miles, and it was absolutely fantastic. Unfortunately, when I built the engine in 2012, I did cut corners and didn't bother changing the valves or rebuilding the head. So it eventually dropped an exhaust valve and destroyed absolutely everything. From there we bought a cheap used forged engine. Supposed to be really good. We threw it in. It did about 10 weeks in the car on the road, and we went to Castle Combe to do some charity passenger rides for Mission Motorsport, and it cracked a piston, and that was the end of that. So at that point, it was on its 3rd engine. It was a bit of a make or break. It was time to do it properly. So what we built was this. Now this is an 1847cc AGU 20 valve engine. So it was originally 1781, it's been overboard to 82.5mm with Wassenaar forged pistons. Runs a 9.5 to 1 compression ratio. It's got a large port head with a full SuperTech valve train, and that's single groove valves, Inconel on the exhaust side, SuperTech double valve springs, titanium retainers, and a set of Cat Cams 3665 camshafts, which are one of the more aggressive profiles. On the turbo side, we have a Nortec tubular manifold that you probably can't see. On top of that sits a Garrett G25 660 with a 0.72 AR housing, and that is exhausting into a 4-inch downpipe, which then goes down into 3-inch for a full system under the car. The car runs on an Emerald K6 ECU with a plug and play adapter, but I have changed the coil pack harness to suit the TFSI style 4-pin coils. On the inlet side, we've got a 4-inch inlet into a Blox 6-inch velocity stack intake. We've got a custom catch can system that I have made by Zach Coles of ZK Fabrications. So we've got a 19mm in from the head, we've got a 19mm in from the crankcase, we've then got a 25mm return to the turbo inlet, and what you can't see that a lot of people don't run is we also have a PCV line that comes from the plenum down here and runs down to the crankcase. So on overrun, as soon as the throttle plate closes, vacuum draws gases out of the crankcase. So what that gives us is a maintenance-free system, and the can, if anything does collect in there, this also drains back down to the sump. The engine currently revs to 8,200 RPM. The turbo's making boost from around 3,000 RPM. It's on fairly strong at 3,400, and it will actually hold 2 bar of boost all the way out to the 8,200 RPM rev limit. Gearbox wise, it's all hidden away down there, but we've got an O2M 6-speed gearbox from a Leon Cooper R, and that has got a steel EN24 insert in the input shaft to support 4th gear, as well as a 3J driveline plated diff, which is a 40-60 ramp angle. 40 being the acceleration ramp to make it quite aggressive on the locking up, 60 being the deceleration ramp, which gives me some stability under braking and stops it locking the wheels. Exhaust wise, there really isn't a great deal to see here. We have a 3-inch system, which actually originally based on an eBay 3-inch exhaust system that I've then modified. You know what we typically do? I map the car on the road on the Emerald K6 using the tablet inside that you've just seen. Once I get to a point that I think I'm happy, we go up to Badger 5 in Gloucester, we run it on the dyno, and Bill gives it his seal of approval. Usually extracts another few ponies out of it. But fingers crossed, this time this is going to be the final incarnation of the engine, and we're going to end up somewhere around 500 horsepower and around 400 foot-pounds of torque. Something else to mention, we're running a CSF radiator, which is pretty impossible to see in here. As well as a CSF radiator, we've got a Mokel 16-row oil cooler with a thermostat there, and a Toyo Sports Type B 3-inch thick intercooler on the front, which keeps inlet temperatures down. We've also got an AEM progressive water methanol injection, which runs at 50-50 water and methanol mix. With regards to the engine, I need to give a massive shout out to Bill at Badger 5. Although I built the engine, I built it at Badger 5, I don't hide that. Bill helped out with having all the machining work done and advised me on the build. Bill was also one of the first people to jump ship from the GT30 and give the G25 a go. Without him trying that, I wouldn't have given this a go, and I wouldn't have had it quite as good as it is today. On the braking side of things, we have AP Racing CP9660 calipers. Now these take the CP3905D54 British Touring Car pad, and these are currently running on 368 by 36 72 vane AP Racing rotors. Now they are straight off a 2017 British Touring Car, and I've got a fairly decent stash of them to keep me going for quite a few years. Now if we move on to the wheels, these are currently Team Dynamics Pro Race 1.3. These are 10J by 18, ET15. I couldn't go any higher than ET15 due to clearance on the shock. Now the car, as you can probably see, has been wide arched. We had to widen the arches this year to cover the 10J wheels. On the front end it was fairly simple, we just had to cut the arch back and screw the plastic arch on. On the back end it wasn't quite so simple, the whole arch lines had to be cut, raised up, re-welded together to make enough room. But you can see now we do actually have masses of clearance in there, and despite being 10J with a 255 tyre, these don't rub at all. Aero wise, the car is running a carbon fibre rear wing as well as a fairly prominent front splitter. Going back to 2013 when I first made the splitter, there were no kits available, so this was all done by me. The splitter is made from marine plywood. It's not the neatest thing in the world, but it is remarkably solid. You can stand on that with all 15 stone of me and it won't go anywhere. And that actually runs as far back as the back of the doors about here, front of the doors about here. Moving over to the rear, we've got a carbon fibre wing. Now this is an element I purchased online. I couldn't find any kits for an A3, so the element was purchased and then a lot of mocking up was done using MDF templates. The brackets here were made by a good friend of mine, Robin. I made them out of MDF and then Robin drew them up in CAD for me and had them cut out of aluminium. Now the wing is supported on some tabs that I made and then using a stainless steel turnbuckle, and these have been positioned in such a way that one turn on the turnbuckle gives me 1 degree adjustment on the angle of attack. Moving inside the car, we have a pair of Cobra Sebring GT ProFit seats. We've got an OMP Targa 330 steering wheel with a bit of a joke sticker on there that I made years ago and never took off. We've got a fair array of gauges. We've got AFR in the centre there, we've got a Knocklink G4 knock light to the left of the AFR, we've got EGT monitoring up there, oil temperature and pressure, which is obviously showing an alarm at the moment because the engine's off, and a stack boost gauge as well. In the middle we run a Lynx Vision 8 tablet setup which logs everything as we're going, and then down here a bit of the safety centre with the electrical cut-off and the fire extinguisher. We've got a tilt-in brake bias lever, currently set to full rear bias, and a VW Motorsport shifter here. Cage wise we have an OMP multi-point bolt-in. Now I know a lot of people don't like bolt-ins, but when I saw this, it's such a comprehensive cage for a bolt-in. It doesn't go behind the dash, but we've got door bars, we've got a full roof diagonal, we've got another diagonal in the B-hoop. It's a pretty decent comprehensive cage. So there's a little walk around of the car. Now it's currently sitting around 1150 kilos, and a big question everyone always asks is what power does it make? It's somewhere around 500 horsepower. I don't know what it's making yet, but I'm due to go on the rolling road at Horsham Developments in a couple of weeks' time. So we're going to find out exactly what it's putting out. I used to run a GT30 last year, which made around 475 horsepower at 24 psi. The G25 feels a lot faster, and we're doing about 6% more injector duty cycle than the GT30 did. So fingers crossed, we're hoping it's around the 500 mark. But to be honest, I don't run it at that on track anyway. I tend to run it around 22, 23 psi, which I think is maybe in the 440, 450 region. So we'll get it on the rollers at Horsham and we'll see what it does. So late last year I did my B+E trailer test so I can legally tow the car behind my daily driver. I've done my ARDS test at Thruxton. I'll cover how that went and what you needed to do to get the race licence in another video quite shortly. So that'll be a National B race licence, and all that's left to do is find a series that this will fit into. So the car's pretty much compliant for most series in terms of safety gear. There might be one or two little things in terms of shifting weight around, upping the power, maybe dropping the power slightly to fit within a power cap. But on the whole, it's pretty much ready to go. Just the driver that needs a bit of work. I've wombled around here now for about 20 minutes. My right hand is absolutely freezing holding this camera up. So I think we're going to jump back in the car, we're going to go for a bit of a drive, and then when we get home we're going to have a go at editing something and see how this works out. So this will probably come across quite disjointed. I don't know where it's going to fit in the video, but I've got to say that if it weren't for an absolutely epic bunch of mates, I would not be doing this. I've always been really self-conscious, probably because I'm the most boring man alive, but I've always been really self-conscious about talking to a camera. I've always thought I just wouldn't have enough interesting to say. So this year, deciding that I'm going to try and go racing. I'm not saying it's definitely going to happen, but I'm going to try. This year, trying to go racing. I thought maybe finally I've got something worth talking about. And there's going to be adaptations to the car, there's going to be things I need to do, getting licenses, all that sort of stuff. So I thought, yeah, I'll try and film it all, and hopefully it can be of some interest or some use to someone else. So I had a massive amount of support from my wife, encouraging me to just get out there and do it. And I've had a huge amount of support from Luke, known as Rainbird, who's been the man behind all of the graphics, the dodgy music you'll hear, pretty much all of that stuff. So massive thanks, mate. Now we're just going to pull over and do some tyre pressures because they do not feel right at the moment. So we're very dark. Always comes back. So we're en route back from the New Forest now. We're going to go home and make a start on editing this. So hope you've enjoyed the video. We'll see what happens. See where it goes. Just one last thing, if there's anything in particular anyone would like to see, if anyone wants to know any more about any particular part of the car, please let me know in the comments. If this has been any good, please tell me what's worked, please tell me what hasn't. I really am completely new to this and I've got no idea how the editing side of it's going to go, so big fingers crossed on that one. But if you've liked the video, please click like, and if you want to see more, please subscribe. And I look forward to seeing you in the next one.